Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode of Sapient Thoughts, where we discuss theophilosophical issues, where we answer the arguments of the detractors of Islam, in addition to making our own arguments for the veracity of Islam. Today, inshallah, we're going to be tackling and dealing with a contention, a misconception, a misnomer really, that some of the anti-Islamic apologists use in order to further their case. And this is a very common one that's been circulating maybe the internet for some time. And really it's a contention that says that the Quran gets it wrong when it says that the bones form before flesh. When in Surah Al-Hajj and Surah Al-Mu'minun, the chapter 22 and chapter 23 respectively of the Quran, they detail the stages of embryological development or embryonic development. When these two surahs do so, the mistake they say in the chronology is that the bones are mentioned before the flesh.
ثم خلقنا النطفة علقة فخلقنا العلقة مضغة فخلقنا المضغة عظاما فكسونا العظام لحما ثم أنشأناه خلقا
And they say this is something which is problematic. Now, first of all, let's take a look at what the latest cutting edge kind of research is saying on this. I'm going to read this from directly because this is not my area of specialism. So I'm just going to be doing isti'ana or using this book, which is The Fundamentals of Human Embryology by John Allen and Beverly Kramer, to inform the discussion today. Let's start off with what they say about the development of limb musculature. It says, for many years, and it's very interesting because science, as we always say, is a transient and dynamic and developing thing. And so when maybe 20 or 30 years ago, they were using these kinds of interrogations against the Quran, the fact that science has developed, actually shows us that we have to be a bit careful making judgments about the Quran using science, either positively or negatively, because listen to what they say. She says, or he says, because we don't know who's writing it here, for many years it was believed that limb muscles differentiated in situ from limb mesenchyme. It is now known that myogenic cells invade the limb buds from the somites at the roots of the buds. However, it seems that tendons and other connective tissue elements of the muscles are formed in situ from the limb bud mesenchyme. Now, the mesenchyme is not yet actualized, or it's not really developed into one of the three main types of cell which would either form a skin, bone, or muscle. But the point of importance here is this particular thing. And this is very important here. Soon after the cartilaginous models of the bones have been established, the myogenic cells, which have now become myoblasts, aggregate to form muscle masses on the ventral and dorsal aspects of the limbs. These muscle masses in the relevant compartments form the flexors and extenders of the joints. Rotator muscles are also formed so that flexors and pronators are related and extensors and supinators are related. Now, basically in lay language, which people like me are more in need of than I'm pretty sure our informed and educated audiences, what we're talking about when they say myogenic cells. So the myogenic cells would eventually become muscle tissue, So what is being said here is that you've got these cartilaginous models, right? And the cartilaginous models would eventually become ossified through a process of osteogenesis or ossification, which actually continues until puberty, and this basically forms the bone. It becomes ossified. So these cartilaginous zones, basically you have these myogenic cells coming now, forming over the cartilaginous zones. Now, what are the cartilaginous zones or models? They basically form what would then become muscles after the process of bones after the process of ossification. Now, the question is, can cartilage in the Arabic language be used to describe bone? Or is cartilage a type of bone in the Arabic language? Because if it is, then the whole issue from a scientific perspective becomes a non-issue straight away. And the answer is yes. The answer is the word ghudruf in the Arabic language, which means cartilage. The word ghudruf in the Arabic language, which means cartilage, according to Fairuz Abadi in his book, in his dictionary, and of course Lisan al-Arab, which is one of the premier gold standard reference points from a dictionary perspective on the Arabic language. And when they describe ghudruf, it says, عظم لين or something like this, or basically it is bone which is very smooth. In other words, cartilage is a type of bone in the Arabic language. So could it be the case that this verse is talking about this process of the myogenic cells migrating to the cartilaginous models? Yes, it could very well be, and if it is, the entire contention is completely solved. But of course, does it have to say فَكَسَوْنَا الْعِظَامَ لَحْمًا? Does this فَكَسَوْنَا الْعِظَامَ لَحْمًا necessarily entail ta'qib or chronology or sequentialism? The answer is not really. It could be conceived that the fa here is not necessarily chronological. And we can bring evidences all over the Quran and Sunnah to evidence this case. But suffice it for me to say that that is not necessary at this juncture, since the whole issue has become a non-issue according to the current scientific information that we have. But no, definitely, it could be that the fa is not للتعقيب. It could be, and also you have to remember one other thing, that it says فَكَسَوْنَا الْعِظَامَ لَحْمًا. It doesn't say فَخَلَقْنَا الْعِظَامَ لَحْمًا. It says we have clothed the idham with meat or with flesh. It doesn't say that we have, created the flesh. In other words, it may be the case that the meat, also the flesh, or whatever you want to call it, that it was already there, but it was rearranged, because al-kisu is different from al-khalq. So clothing something is different from it being created, especially from non-emergent properties. Or in other words, coming from non-emergence. There's a difference between those two things. And in fact, Al-Baydawi says something very interesting in his tafsir, who is an early mufassir. He talks about the stage which is referred to in Surah Al-Hajj as mukhallaqa or ghair mukhallaqa. He talks about when it's formed and unformed, the mudgha, which is another really interesting description, because mudgha is literally means something which is chewed, a chewed-like flesh or chewed-like thing. And this is what the dictionaries, all the dictionaries will say to the Arabic dictionaries. So mudgha really could be very well corresponding with what is referred to today in embryology as somatogenesis, the somites being formed on the embryo. And the fact that it says mukhallaqa or ghair mukhallaqa could be talking about the cells migrating in different ways and operating or operationalizing and functioning in different ways. And this is muhtamal, very possible. But suffice it for me to say once again that if we accept the premise that the cartilaginous models or zones, which have not been fully ossified and will not be fully ossified, by the way, because this is the assumption of the attack, are sufficient to be named as idham in the Quran, then according to the latest science that we have, this becomes a non-issue straight away. And hopefully that answers the question. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.